Hi everyone, welcome to my review of Mamoru Hosoda's The Girl Who Leapt Through Time in 2006. So yes, here we are, back again with an anime review, and yes, once again the Blu-ray here. I recently picked this up. I think, I showed this in my recent Blu-ray update, of course, along with Ghost in the Shell. That was the anime, of course, that I picked up as well around the time. And yes, it's a film that's not Ghibli work, so a bit different from most of my anime reviews. This is Madhouse Productions. Hosoda is a director who I've never, checked out yet. He's made a few films, of course, and certainly after this, I will be checking out his films. That's for sure. This film, it's a very interesting one. Even the basic couple of sentences that I read about the plot concerning the genre, perhaps, and the overall kind of premise of the film, it seemed very, very interesting. I thought, who knows, I could actually love this one. Maybe it could be one of my favourites. I just had that feeling, more of a coming of age film, but a time travel one as well. So I was really interested to see how the time travel would be integrated to the characters and the story. And yes, just overall interest in this one because it's not too kind of well regarded. It's not a loved film overall. The consensus, not a divisive one, but it's just kind of it's not like loads of people hate the film and loads of people love it. It's kind of just flies. It seems under the radar. 2006, of course. I guess Studio Ghibli, of course, has become more and more kind of well known, of course. At the turn of the century, so maybe it just got a brush under, and stuff compared to the ones that how stuff coming out around this time, you could say. But yeah, it's just not, other than a couple of lists, I've not seen it too mentioned, really. But yeah, as I say, just really, really interested me. I love, the idea of time travel, of course, interests me a great deal. And coming of age film, romance, and it concerns the character of Makoto, living in Tokyo, and a 17-year-old student, and her friends are Hosuke and Chiaki, and there's the three main characters really here that you have in the film, and playing together and hanging around and stuff, and you see so much in the actual school as well, which is also always something I look out for in these anime films. It really appeals to me, and the nostalgia level of this. This film, after watching it, a number of things have come to my mind. And that is that it's very, very similar, to some qualities to Whisper of the Heart, which is my second favourite anime film of all time. I would say, Whisper of the Heart, and it also kind of reminds me at times of Only Yesterday. It really does, and very, very similar in these some of these aspects. The school life and everything, the way it's presented. The joyous nature of this, and the very honest portrayal as well. Quite daring, both all these films in them ways. Yes, other things come to mind is my childhood, of course, and school life, and another thing that comes to once I saw the film, what I was feeling is that this is certainly underrated, and certainly one of my 100 favourite films of all time. This film absolutely blew me away, and let me tell you, one of the great films in cinema for me, and I think it's highly underrated. Just in my opinion, it just doesn't. I don't think gets the attention that it really deserves. What a kind of unexpected, kind of unraveling of this gift. We'll say from Hosoda. This is a miracle of a film. It's truly, truly wonderful. Quite a short one, around just less than 100 minutes, and it's kind of, as I say, it's a time travel. It's a coming of age film, a romance, and just a wonderful kind of slice of life. You could say a wonderful, kind of anime film that is just one of my favourites. Really, really is. This blew me away, and I just instantly kind of thought this is one of my top 5 anime films. It's that good. It's considering for being, do I prefer it to Mononoke? Possibly, because I really need to consider that. But definitely could be, and I don't quite prefer it to Whisper of the Heart and Spirited Away. But other than that, this is certainly in my top 5 anime films. Didn't quite expect that. This just blew me away in every sense, and it's just an absolute masterpiece in every sense, in my opinion. I think just perfect. It ticks all the boxes. Concerns this 17-year-old, of course, Makoto, and she very early on stumbles across this kind of walnut-shaped object, and yes, the mysteries that kind of come from this, really unforgettable. This film is just one of the most unforgettable and most wonderful experiences I've ever had. It really is something special, and it's a time travel film. She picks this up, and she learns she can time travel, leap through time, if you will, and quite early on, it's kind of played at first more in the vein of comedy, which is really, really unique. It's kind of like Back to the Future, actually, because that film, of course, it's one of the most joyous films in cinema, one of the best, of course, for me, and just, it's a film that approaches things, with the comedy, but underlying is real emotion, themes of family and, friendship and everything, and it's truly emotional, Back to the Future, and this is the kind of film it reminds me of, because it starts off more kind of upbeat and comedy, in this film, and then it goes really, really emotional, and things that you see early on actually, really become more meaningful as the film goes on, and it's the way this film as well, just the way it used it as a repetition, going through different events for the comedy, but also just getting to know these events, sticking in your mind, seeing them play out, a bit differently. It's just kind of an addictive way to tell the story. This is what time travel can do for cinema. It can be used as just an enthralling device, really, actually, to tell a story and to get you invested. And let me tell you, this is just one of the most genius scripts of all time, and the way this is directed, the visuals in this film, you may not think they're some of the best at first, but actually, I really think there's some of the best animation, just the level of depth to this, and the charm to it, and just the overall, some of the shots, the moments with the sunsets, and overall the actual traversing time, this is stunning. This is like a, dazzling visual movie. It really is. The moments where she goes through time are stunning stuff, and just transfixes me, hypnotizes me, really, actually, for its visuals. It's wonderful, this film, in the visual department. The editing as well, it just never breaks the flow, and always a narrative momentum. This could have been a film that kind of, it could become, kind of disjointed, and, not repetitive, but just kind of, it could have been muddled, and maybe it is a bit kind of, sporadic at times, but in all the best ways, kind of thing, because it's constantly something that I never lost investment in, and it just kind of, it's not convoluted, but it's kind of, there's so much kind of going on at once, all the different layers and the kind of the scenes that play out again, it's just really such a wonderful film, and Makoto, for me, is one of the best animated protagonists in a film. Really, one of the best. I got so invested in his character. She's such a lovable character. She's funny, clumsy. Kind of, immature and kind of just relatable, I think. But then she's really got so much depth actually to her character. Really an underrated character in cinema. I think she's one of the best. Personally, I think there's so much in this character that maybe just hasn't been, kind of paid attention to it. I really think so. And Chiaki, no doubt, one of the best characters as well. Just her friends in general, and all the people in the school, and her family as well. It's all treated with so much, kind of sincerity, and the charm to the film. You've also got the auntie as well, who's just so good in the film. The warmth that comes through here, it's just one of them films. Very comparable to Whisper of the Heart. Not quite on the level, but if I was to compare, kind of what film, this year I've seen for the first time that's just, as close as it gets to Whisper of the Heart, which is my best first watch of 2019, personally, it would be this film. This would be number 2, actually, surprisingly. And, films like Only Yesterday would be, kind of 3, 4 kind of thing. So, yes, mostly this year, in terms of my first watches, most of the best films have been anime films, and there's so much, just, if you only watch Ghibli films, I really say, it's kind of a thing to really check out, ones like this, because they do, kind of stand up to the best for me, personally, of Ghibli works. Well, Ghibli, yes, is the best overall. I think the best consistently animation kind of production studio and stuff of all time, even surpassing Pixar and Disney, in itself, not Disney Pixar kind of thing. But yes, I think it really, despite that, I think there's so much other ones by kind of different companies and directors who you should really check out, because this one, just imagine if I'd never watched this film, which I intend to watch as much animes as I can. But for example, if someone doesn't get around to this because it's less known and stuff, I say if you're watching this, I would highly recommend this film, and I think just add it to the watch list. And when you get the time, watch the film. I really recommend it. Certainly for me, a life-changing film actually, and really one that such a level of emotion, real emotion to the film, nostalgic. It's a celebration of cinema. It's a joyous film. It really is, and it just kind of has life lessons in the film as well. Just kind of time waits for no one. These quotes like this, so meaningful, and this in the end, I was taken aback how this kind of reached such a level of spiritualness. Actually, it's one of the most spiritual films I've ever seen, actually, and it really moved me to tears. And it's just a beautiful film as well. It moved me through the beauty of the film, the moments of joy, the very small moments, you could say, the way this director wants, like a lot of these, Japanese directors, they know how to perfectly elevate, small things in life. Ozu as well, he is the example in cinema, of course, really, of a director consistently doing that. The way he can just elevate, you could say Ozu films, most of them are, just characters in a house, talking and, doing everyday things, you could say, but they're some of the greatest films, so many of them, and this is no exception. This is the one that kind of the everyday kind of things, it's just so elevated to a level of purity, and it has got big things going on, like time travel, but it's the way at first she uses her gift, in a way that you could say is foolish. She kind of immature at first, but then the genius thing is, this time travel, kind of premise, and this of course is a spoilers review, a bit late in saying that, but of course it is in the description, but yes, the way she goes through time and stuff at first, for kind of trivial things, you could say, to kind of do better in her lessons, and yeah, it's just moments when she wants to avoid awkward situations, and see them play out differently, but then she kind of grows as a character, and she kind of finds how it can be used as a meaningful gift, time travel. And then, the revelation, the big revelation, that Chiaki is, of course, from the future. One of the greatest reveals in cinema, one of the very best for me. I was wowed by this, and of course, like great films, their twists, their reveals, it's something that you can kind of look back and you think, oh, of course, kind of thing. It makes sense. It's so honest to the story. It's not a cheap reveal at all. And he was such a great character, very mysterious. And you've got this connection that builds up over the film between these two characters mainly. This romance, this love story, and it just in the second half, especially, it comes into its own. And it's one of the great love stories for I think in cinema. It really is a wonderful film. And the way it ends, certainly one of my 100 favourite endings of all time, and that is saying something. This ends perfectly. That moment, of course, where he says, "I'll be waiting," in the future. Wow, does it get more kind of, emotional than that? It's so emotional. In terms of anime, it's one of the very best endings to a film. I think there's so many great anime endings, but this is right up there with the best. And one of my favourites, of course, a contender for my absolute favourite is Whisper of the Heart. But this is, it's up there definitely, and it really is just such an emotional final act. But overall, this film consistently is just so investing. You've got so many standout moments here, and it could easily have got kind of muddled, this kind of type of film by another filmmaker. It could certainly have been something that was disjointed, but never for a second is this the case. And you've got so many moments where the stakes are so high, and the dramatic irony is used so well, so perfectly. Kosuke, when he takes the bike, for example, with that doesn't have the breaks. This is a moment that goes back to previous moments in the film, and you know what could easily have happened. You know what could happen with this character, and you know it's something where him and another character, they take this bike, and one of them moments in cinema where you just kind of like, wow, this, how is this going to happen? What's going to happen here? And it certainly delivers. Every moment in this film is just so genius in its execution. It really, really is. Some very, very simple and pure themes, and the way they're used really is just everything I wanted from this film, and more. Little did I think this would be, kind of one of my top 150 and 100 films. Certainly not necessarily. I thought, it'd be personally, it'd probably be a one I loved. But it's one thing thinking that, kind of what you hope for a film, and then for it to actually play out, better than you expected. It's just a pleasure, to kind of watch this film from start to finish, and it has so much innocence in the film. The way childhood kind of is captured. It's a coming of age film, but it's done in such a sincere way. There's nothing kind of forced, messages or anything. It's so sincere, so enjoyable, and just at times it's very light. Definitely, but it's more powerful than most films I've ever seen in terms of anime. It really is one of them films. I connected to it on every single level, and these characters are just some of the best in an anime film. Keeping it small scale in terms of the characters, although there's loads in the score. Not too many of the characters. Maybe less than 10 really of some of these characters are actually fully named. So it's one that kind of keeps it small, and personal, and just there's so much warmth and kind of heart to the film, and the way it portrays friendship, just growing up, but not so much, kind of thing, keeping the innocence and everything intact, and this childhood, the way it's explored. It is wonderful. It really is such a nostalgic film. What it makes me feel. It makes me feel very, very nostalgic. So powerful, the emotions to this, and again, it's the one that creeps up on you. I didn't think it would be this moving by the end. It really is a stunning piece of cinema, and very short, but it feels like there's so much life lessons and kind of just themes in this film that's so powerful. That are all packed into this quite short film. There's such a level of purity to this, and to the emotions, to the characters overall, that it's just a magnificent work, balanced out with the kind of the wonderful use of sci-fi, and the kind of fantastical nature that it has. This film, the visuals, all the time travel sequences, and the way it kind of is used in the story to kind of for a comedy, but also in the end, certainly for the how this kind of shows the consequences as well of time travel, as we know. Nothing ever kind of permanently tragic happens, but it's certainly there's moments where it's kind of shocking, and it puts it into perspective for this character, and she reacts to this. She grows organically, in the film, and there's such a scope to it, but it's always so personal, as I've mentioned. Small amount of characters really that are actually present within the narrative, and just something that has so much warmth, and in the end, it just certainly across the entire film it reaches a level that is just so spiritual and so meaningful. This is just one of the most pleasing films that I've ever seen. So awe-inspiring, but so personal as well, and it balances out the drama with the kind of sci-fi elements perfectly, and it has such a level of nostalgia to the film, beauty to the film. These moments, especially towards the end of the film with the sunsets, and the characters are just sitting there, or something. It's so beautiful, this film, to look at, but it's truly beautiful in its soul, in its heart, and of course, I could go on and on and on. How this is just one of the best narratives I've ever seen in an animated film. And just how it's just such an underrated film. It's beautiful to look at, and it's got truly human characters. And it's just it's a wonderful film. The sense of time and place, nostalgia, the themes are explored to perfection, masterfully handled. The direction is perfect in my eyes. The editing, it never breaks flow, and it's so inventive, this film, and it's not too mentioned in terms of most creative animated films, but I really think it is. It's got the concepts, it's got the ideas, but unlike some films, it really does deliver, and actually exceed my expectations in the execution of these very interesting concepts. This is the one that really takes that to the next level. This time travel use, the way it's kind of used for drama, for comedy, and just to really elevate this film. It's genius, and just the way it's used to tell the story. It's such an investing film that, as I say, I could watch it for hours and hours, 10 hours, or just all day. It's something that I can get lost in. It's so investing, it's so engaging, stimulating, but really so wonderful. And I have to give it full marks. No doubt, this is a full mark film. I mean, come on, of course, it is in my top 100 films. So it gets 100% plus, tier 1. Not quite on the S tier, but it does not matter. This is one of my very favourite films. I couldn't believe it. I think it's just really such a stunning film. If you've not seen it, you have to check it out. It's something that could be glossed over. Understandably, it's not really something that's kind of said to be a great film all the time. And everyone's different. Not everyone will love the film, but I really think this is a special work. One that is definitely among the very best anime films. It's better than so many other ones that are very famous. That doesn't matter, but I really think this. It was great to, of course, basically check this film out. Discover, and be kind of unexpectedly wowed. It's great when I find that in a film. But again, I don't think the director and everyone involved, really gets quite enough credit for this film. I really think it's one of the genius films, one of the most creative, but one of the most human, moving films I've seen. It's a wonderful film, whimsical. It's got kind of a beautiful script, and it's got wonderful music. I loved the use of music in the film. I think it's just wonderful. The overall sound design as well. It's kind of the use of silence in the film as well. The way moments in this. It's also perfect. But the use of music really elevates the film as well, and it's just such an emotional attachment to the actual soundtrack and everything. It's wonderful. It's something that's quite subtle at times. The soundtrack. It's one that kind of weaves its way in, subtly, but it's really stunning. It has its overwhelming moments as well within the soundtrack. These moments that just overwhelm me, of emotion at certain moments in the film. I love this film to bits. I think it's one of the best films ever made, personally, and it's great that it was something that I discovered. That kind of it's more of an unknown film, and I was blown away by it. But I really think this does deserve a bit more credit, at least. I just personally find it, to be one of the best anime films, and a true masterpiece of cinema. It has everything here. It has the creativity, the passion, the artistic merit, and it's just some of the best characters in an anime film. The level of emotion, the way this love story, just moved me, and just the whole film is just so pleasing and so nostalgic, and not much more to say. I could go on and on, but this film is wonderful, and just the second best first watch of this year for me. And a lot of my films are are rewatches, but there are films, of course, quite a few that I've never seen before and I've checked out this year. Not ones that that have come out this year. I'm talking about just overall films that I never got around to, and in terms of that, I think this is number 2. And yes, only Yesterday's up there. Whisper of the Heart is number 1. So pretty amazing year for anime. Despite seeing kind of a lot of the Ghibli works before this year, so it's even then as proven it can go on and on. There's so much anime films to check out. It's really got me excited as well for more of this director's work. I believe there's a couple other ones that are actually quite loved, more than this one, so it's good that he's probably getting a bit more attention actually. It's something It just really moved me with this film, and I just think it's so great. The voice acting, not a single flaw for me. I was wowed by this film, and just a wonderful piece of cinema. Certainly one of my very favourite films of all time. So yes, thanks for watching, and yes, did not disappoint. Absolutely stunning, this film from start to finish. Sublime work, spiritual, moving truly, and yeah, it's just one of the, it's such a funny film, charming film, and perfect cinema for me. And this is the sort of film that gets me excited. It really does, for the more the anime films to check out. It's something that it just proves that there's more out there that are not talked about too much. But it's something I'm really excited to check out. All these other ones, and yeah, this is just a real special one for me, certainly. And yes, highly recommend this one. Everyone just quite cheap as well. So it's a win-win situation. I don't think it's not a film that's, as I say, it's divisive. It's just not quite got the attention quite, perhaps. But yes, for me, just a wonderful film, full of feeling, full of atmosphere. It's so precise, but yet so kind of relaxed at times, and to get invested in organically, and character development. Themes. All this is just mastered in the way it's explored. So yes, The Girl Who Leapt Through Time, an absolute masterpiece for me, and really a wonderful film. One of my top 100. And yes, more anime films. I cannot wait. We'll be doing some more, of course, quite soon. And yes, as always, thanks for watching my review.